quies in caelis, sanctificator nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra, panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Quia tuum est regnum, et potestas, et gloria, in saecula. Amen.
Hello, and welcome to Unknowable, the podcast where we talk about all things mysterious, unusual, or unknowable. I'm Justine.
And I'm Gray. This week, we have a special Halloween episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where we're talking about the exorcism of a boy named Roland Doe.
Roland Doe. So, most of you may not know that name.
Right, I didn't.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
But basically, the gist of the story is that this was in the late 1940s in the United States. A boy essentially was undergoing an exorcism by priests of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yep.
Like 13, 14-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm.
And these events were recorded by one of the attending priests.
Right.
So there's a diary somewhere of this. The most notable thing about this story, probably, the thing that you do know, is that this story inspired the book, The Exorcist,
dun, dun, dun.
by William Peter Blatty, which then went on to inspire the movie, The Exorcist, which
was also directed by Blatty, which I found out.
No, Friedkin.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It might have been produced or something.
He was involved.
He was definitely involved. I mean, he was part of the team, and it was based on his book. But,
it's crazy.
Awesome movie.
Awesome movie.
Gray has not seen.
I have not seen. Wow. I was just gonna roll with that. I have not seen The Exorcist, so I'm kind of like I approached this having no knowledge of what I should know about this case, and so I just approached it as like fresh.
Yeah.
So
Probably
it was interesting.
Yeah.
There's some weird shit going on here.
Okay. I mean, the movie obviously, as they usually do, took some liberties.
Like that it's a little girl in the movie.
Apparently that was supposedly that was done to kind of preserve the secrecy of whoever was actually exorcised. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Is it like too close to exorcised? I don't know.
Exorcised? Yeah, exorcised the demons.
Exorcised?
Just ran on a treadmill for a while
Yeah.
until the demon left.
The demon was just like, fuck this.
Fuck this.
Yeah. Treadmill running sucks.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
So, they changed some details, but there's also obviously some things that are extra.
Mm-hmm.
Unclear whether that was on the part of Blatty writing the book. I actually haven't read the book. I've seen the movie. Or if that was on part of the people making the movie. Yeah. I don't really know. But
it's hard to pin down any of the details of this story.
Yeah.
Like the beginning and the end are kind of set in stone. And then the whole middle of the story is just kind of like, depending on where you read about it, it could be vastly different.
Oh my God. Yeah. I must have read on 10 or maybe a dozen different sites about this story. And every single one had different details.
Totally different.
Some not so big, some pretty big.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of priests' names in this story and ministers and things. And some of those names got flipped around. It's not totally clear to me who was where at what time.
No.
Which doesn't really matter. No. I mean, these are just names.
Right.
But it's just things like that where it's just apparently even the newspaper articles about this possession were the same, all over the place with details.
Oh, yeah. So this was before the book, there was just a series of newspaper articles that were talking about this story.
Exactly.
And so the book is kind of an amalgamation of those, as well as a firsthand account from the priest who performed. Was it the last exorcism, or was it? Yeah,
he was part of the last one. Supposedly, from what I read, and again, who knows which of our versions are true, that William Peter Blatty, so he was an English literature major at Georgetown University and just happened to see one of the articles, and then and that was in the late 40s.
Right.
And he had that idea kicking around for a while and then finally decided to dig up some info. From what I read, he somehow got a hold of one of the copies of the diary that was kept by one of the attending priests.
Okay.
I guess he got in touch with the priest. I don't know if it was the one who wrote the diary or another one, but the priest wouldn't talk to him directly because he wanted to keep his pledge to secrecy.
Right.
But he did tell him this is the real thing. And And that was from somebody who was there.
Ooh.
Yeah. So who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, Exorcist, 13th top grossing movie of all time.
Damn.
You should definitely see it.
I will this holiday season.
A brilliant movie.
Yeah.
I actually reviewed it on my blog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to my blog that I don't write it anymore. It's called Last Blog on the Left.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look it up.
It's unfortunate that was just like a name that sounded good, but I don't actually like that movie.
Yeah. Or The Last Podcast on the Left.
Oh, yeah. I didn't actually know that existed until after I made my blog.
Shoot.
Yeah. Somebody was like, oh, like the podcast? And I was like, what?
What? And then you found it and you're like, damn it.
Yeah. And I didn't intend to make a podcast, so that part didn't matter. But I was like, I really didn't want those to be like, now it looks like that's their blog.
Yeah, right.
But then I was like, maybe it'll get me more traffic.
Hey, there you go.
Indirectly, people are like, ooh,
there you go.
Cool. Anyways, I review horror movies on there. And I once had a goal to review like every horror movie ever made. At least all the really big ones.
That's probably attainable
I
in
have
your lifetime.
like over 100 reviews on there. So it's not going poorly. But then I got pregnant and had a baby. And now I don't watch too many movies anymore. Mm-hmm. Anyways. So.
All right.
Yeah, like I said, that's how Blatty ended up writing this book. And so, if anybody doesn't know, demonic possession is when an individual is supposed to be possessed by a malevolent preternatural being, commonly referred to as demons or devils. This is not a valid or recognized psychiatric diagnosis.
Correct.
The DSM-5 indicates that personality states of dissociative identity disorder may be interpreted as possession in some cultures, and in instances of spirit possession are often related to traumatic experiences. So it's generally thought of that there's some other underlying mental illness happening here.
I have a theory that I will save for the end of this episode.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right. So, and possession itself is one of those things that like exists in every culture.
Of course.
Pretty much like every religion has some version of it. Mm-hmm. They can vary pretty wildly in their definitions of possession.
Oh, yeah.
Why people are being possessed, what they're being possessed by.
Yep. Cures.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's all kind and there's different ways. Like there's some cultures that believe that you have like offended some spirit and you need to like give them offerings. Some people, like the Christian religions, tend to think that you're possessed by a demon or by Satan himself.
Yep, you're like weak and they take over your vessel because you're like in a weak position and they're able to like overpower your consciousness or something.
Yeah.
It's weird. There's some stuff in this story where it's almost like the soul of the boy is like trying to like communicate, but is being like held back by the demon. And there's like these weird little like messages that come out we'll get to, but like, it's almost like the real person is inside the body still trying to communicate, trying to get out, trying to like take back over control of their body, but they can't because the demon is controlling their body. That's
like the worst part about it to me is that you're still in there somewhere.
Oh yeah. You're watching not just, this.
Yeah. You're watching it and you can't help it. Yeah. The oldest references to demonic possession are from the Sumerians. So we're talking 5500 BC.
Babylon.
Yeah. Who believed that all diseases of the body and mind were caused by sickness demons.
Seems legit.
Yeah. The priests who practiced exorcisms in these nations were called ashipu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Which means sorcerer, as opposed to an asu, which is a physician.
Okay.
So kind of everything was like drawing these sickness demons out. And in modern medicine, it is now suspected that an underlying cause of what sometimes appears to be a demonic possession is actually anti-NDMA receptor encephalitis.
That was what I was.
Oh, damn.
Go with. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, a type of brain inflammation due to antibodies. So that initially just causes like fever and fatigue and some pretty subtle symptoms, but then that can go on to psychosis, delusions, hallucinations, agitation, confusion, and seizures, which sounds an awful lot like a possessed person.
It's like 100% what that is.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
I did not mean to spoil your theory.
No. It's
I thought that was like an interesting little thing. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's probably what's actually going on in a lot of these situations.
Right. Which is interesting. And it said that is kind of like people believing that it's possession can stop people from getting treatment from this very real underlying medical issue because they're just like, oh, we got to get these demons out. And it's like, no, it's actually just antibodies and we need to help you so that you don't, I don't know what happens when that's untreated. Probably not good.
I think it leads to death.
Cool.
Yeah.
Which they would probably just be like, oh, the demon got him.
Exactly.
Yeah, Satan took him.
Or you recover and then you're like, oh, cool. So the demon has been cast out.
Shit. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally never even thought about that side of things until I started reading about this more.
Yeah.
So just an FYI for the future, we probably will have an episode just on possession in general. So if you feel like we're not going super in depth about possession right now, That's because we don't want to spoil it.
Right. There's a whole lot to unpack here.
Yeah, there's so much. I wanted to get into it and I got all jazzed up and then I was like, no, hold it back.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we said, the story is all over the place.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is that there were a few people, not really that many people who witnessed this.
Yeah.
Roland himself, his family,
mm-hmm.
and mostly these priests and other like religious figures that were there.
Right.
And a lot of them were like sworn to secrecy for the sake of keeping him anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not really a whole lot. I mean, there's a lot of like speculation here and a lot of, some people say that they've read the diaries, but who knows if they really did.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't clear if those diaries are like available to the public or if they're sitting in like a storage somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of the things that I read, again, like who knows, but one of the things that I read said that there was like a couple copies of like, I think there's just one diary. I initially thought there were multiple.
Right.
But then it seemed like there was one assistant to the exorcism who kept a diary and there were copies made. And supposedly there's like a couple versions at like some religious institution and like maybe a couple versions at the hospital where the exorcism finished. Like, who knows? Right. But yeah, these details are all over the place. But yeah, now we can jump into Roland himself.
Yeah. So Roland is a pseudonym to protect the identity of the actual child.
Yes.
But we're pretty sure that the child's actual name was Robbie Mannheim.
Yeah.
So might use Robbie, we might use Roland throughout this episode.
Yeah.
Because some of my notes have both.
Yeah.
So
same dude.
He was born to a German Lutheran family. Hence Mannheim is the last name. In Cottage City, Maryland. He was born in 1935.
So one of the fun details that got mistaken in the story is instead of people saying that he was born in Cottage City and like that some of this happened there, they thought that he was, it was like Mount Rainier.
Yes. Yeah.
Also in Maryland. And so there were like kids and teenagers and stuff back then that would like gather in these areas that they thought were like, oh, this is where it happened. Yep. And it wasn't even there.
Classic.
Yeah. Totally classic, which I'm sure made it no less scary for them.
Oh, yeah.
At the time. But then finding out later, like, oh.
This is the wrong city.
Totally wrong place. Yeah, he was an only child.
Yep.
This whole story makes me debate whether or not I should have another kid.
Yeah, right.
So I want an only child that ends up possessed by a demon.
It made it out that he seemed pretty lonely.
Yeah, he was a lonely dude. It said he depended upon adults in his household for playmates, which is sad.
Really sad.
Really, like, weirdly sad. That's like, I don't know why that's sad. Shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
But primarily, he spent a lot of time with his Aunt Harriet, who was a spiritualist who introduced Roland to the Ouija board.
Yes.
So,
which I read, like, she shouldn't have introduced him to the Ouija board because, like, if you're a spiritualist, you believe that it's a very, like, robust and direct form of communication with the other side. And so unless you're an aged and experienced spiritualist, you shouldn't be opening up a kid to that sort of like conduit into the other side. Yeah.
This kid, keep in mind, this kid was 13 at the time. So yeah, this was not an adult. No. Who even then, I mean, a lot of people think that anybody inexperienced with a Ouija board should not mess with it because there are supposed to be certain things you're supposed to do to keep demons away or to close the line of communication when you're done. It can be very dangerous to leave it just open.
Right.
For spirits just to come into this realm and to come into your
It's space. Like opening a door into your room and it's like you have to close the door again afterwards.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, if you don't know, Ouija boards are also known as spirit boards or talking boards. Tools to communicate with the dead. And the Catholic Church and other Christian denominations have warned against using them. They say they can lead to demonic possession. Which
weird.
Yeah, relevant here.
Yeah.
And then again, other people say that it's just, if you're inexperienced, don't mess with it. Which I tend to myself not want to be super close to one.
Oh God, no.
I have friends.
All set without that.
Shout out to Haley and Joel who use the Ouija board all the time. We actually had a really terrifying, well, shouldn't have been terrifying, but terrifying to me experience where I was at their house. This is a little segue here, but still, it's relevant. So Haley and Joel use the Ouija board a lot. This is just like a thing that they do, but Joel doesn't believe in it as much. I think Haley's a big believer, you know. So anyways, we were over at their house one night. We had like been out too late. We were drinking and then we were like, whoops, I'm spending the night in Bangor, which is 2 hours away from where I live.
Yes.
So we went back to the house and we were like, let's play with the Ouija board. And I was a little nervous. We got to it and eventually somebody wanted to talk to me, and it was my dad.
Oh, yeah.
And so backstory for us, me and Gray's dad passed away when I was like 15. So I was asking some questions and just to see, because the scary thing about the Ouija board is supposedly there are some demons and some not so fun spirits who can come through and pretend to be your loved ones to get your trust and to kind of open you up. So the fear at first was like, what if this is just some demon? Just some demon. Trying to get me with my guard down. And Haley and Joel knew that my dad had passed away. They knew like the very basics, passed away when I was younger, but they didn't know details about him.
Right.
I asked what his birthday was, and I asked his middle name, and the Ouija board got both of those right. Ooh. And there's no way, there's literally no way that freaky. Haley and Joel would have known.
Right.
There's no way you guess a birthday.
Oh, God, no.
Jesus Christ. But then his middle name, which I won't say on here, but it's not a middle name that you'd expect for a man. Yeah. It just isn't. Okay, let's just say it's a name that obviously can be a man's name, but it's more typically a woman's name.
Yes.
You would not guess it's not Robert or something.
God. Yeah, it's not a common name.
So I'm pretty sure that I talked to my dad. It was a very emotional night. Yeah. I was already drinking. I was a little bit under the influence, and I was like crying, and they were like, oh no.
Here we go.
So yeah, Ouija boards are not anything to fuck with.
Yeah. Ouija boards ain't nothing to fuck with.
I knew that was going to happen. January 1949, Aunt Harriet dies. Yes. This is when all the trouble starts.
And Aunt Harriet was Roland's like closest friend and playmate. Yep. So he was
adult playmate.
Very devastated by her passing.
Yes.
And was in a compromised emotional state.
I was saying, maybe open up a little bit.
Just like you talking to the Ouija board, trying to talk to that person who died, who you wanted to communicate with the most.
Yep.
Maybe something was impersonating Aunt Harriet. Ugh. He opened himself up to that spirit while he was playing with the Ouija board and got possessed.
Yeah. See, we're just filling in details ourselves now.
Filling in details.
We don't even know. Well, there's no way to know.
Yeah.
So it was like shortly after her death, the family starts experiencing some weird shit. Like weird noises, furniture moving on its own,
scratching on the walls,
which is
only when Robbie was in the room. Yeah. Ugh. I don't.
One of the things I read said that he had to like stop going to school because his desk was shaking.
Yeah. So like, weird things happening in the house. You could attribute that to like mice in the walls or whatever, old house creaking.
Right.
But like for that to continue on in school in such like a public, visible setting with like other kids around, and if he had to stop going to school, that means that it was noticed by people and freaked him out.
Yeah, it wasn't him complaining that his desk was shaking. It was like, you need to stop disturbing these classmates.
Right. With your hauntage bullshit.
Yeah, get your demon out of the school. Your demon has not paid tuition, so get the fuck out. A Bible rising up from the bookcase on its own. Ordinary objects like vases flying or levitating when he was nearby.
Yeah, real casual.
Oh yeah. Scratching sounds, the sound of water dripping, as well as his bed shaking violently. I thought it was interesting. For some reason, the sound of water dripping, maybe it was in the movie, I can't remember. It might have been in the movie. But probably. I, in my mind, linked that to possession for some reason.
Interesting.
And I Googled it because I'm like, is this a thing? It is not apparently a thing. But it did say that, in the dream interpretation kind of circle and, looking for symbolism type of things, the sound of water dripping can symbolize a loss of power, which I thought was kind of weirdly relevant to this.
That is very relevant.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why. It must have popped up in the movie, which is why it's, stuck in my brain.
Interesting.
But yeah, a bunch of creepy shit happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in and around Roland's, room, and only when he's present in the room.
Yeah. So they turn to their pastor, Luther Miles Schultz.
A Lutheran pastor named Luther.
Wow.
Which is
too good.
Very ironic.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Supposedly, so, of course, 2 different articles I read. One of them said that he was very interested in the parapsychological.
Yes.
And the other one said he was intensely skeptical.
Interesting.
Those are the opposite things.
The answer is probably somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. So who knows? He's interested enough. He's their family pastor. So
and he does end up helping them with this. So he must have had some at least morbid curiosity.
Yeah. He wanted to see what was going on. So apparently he has the boys spend the night with him.
Which would not fly in 2019.
This not happen tonight.
They slept in twin beds in the same room. So there was separation between the beds, but
would not happen nowadays.
No.
Or maybe it would. I don't know.
Catholic Church.
So his whole goal was to observe him. He supposedly witnessed vibrating noises coming from the bed.
Yeah. to unpack that, what does that sound like?
I don't know.
Would that be like the bed frame rattling? Would that be like a weird, like almost like your phone on vibrate?
Yeah, just
or
like a buzzing. Yeah, it's like an insect noise.
Yeah.
So it was creeping him out.
I can't picture in my head what that sounds like.
And like, what kind of? So he's like, yeah. Now I'm like trying to picture the situation.
Right.
Like, is Roland like sleeping, and Luther the Lutheran is just like in his other bed, like in the dark, but like he's got like a little flashlight under the covers and he's like taking notes.
Yeah, right. Or is he just like observing it? Like,
yeah, is he just sitting there? Is he just like trying to sleep?
Did he write this all down the night? Yeah. Was he?
Right.
What if he's like a heavy sleeper?
Yeah, he would miss the whole thing.
He just slept through all of it, and he woke up and he's like, "Shit, I didn't record anything."
Like, you need to stay another night. The parents are like, "No, this is getting weird."
Yep.
So I don't know. Scratching sounds on the wall. Apparently, a heavy armchair in which Roland was sitting, like tipped over.
Yep.
And blankets like moved around on their own.
Yeah.
It said something about like pallets of blankets. I'm not sure what that
I don't
means.
know what pallets means, but I'm assuming just like folded blankets.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know.
I was like, why do you have pallets of blankets? Anyways. So I think he was like, dude, get some help.
Yeah. Like y'all need he basically said call a Catholic priest.
Yeah.
Which
y'all need Jesus.
Yeah, y'all need Jesus. Which is interesting because I know that so like Lutheranism is a different denomination of Christianity. So Catholics and Lutherans believe in Jesus, but I think the details are very different. Like I think because Martin Luther nailed his treatises to like the door of the Catholic Church to like secede from the Catholic Church or whatever. Wow. I'm not clear exactly on what was specifically different. I know that Lutherans have like a strong like work ethic and commitment to like what we would consider to be like very almost like the Pilgrims, where it's just very much like nothing, like you can't do anything that's fun, you can't enjoy anything, you just have to work hard, be quiet, no impure thoughts. So I know it's like very hard line. So I wonder if a Lutheran pastor asking them to go to a Catholic priest sort of like illustrates the seriousness of the situation by asking for like a different denomination of Christian to come in to like help you.
Right.
Like he wasn't equipped to deal with exorcism, but the Catholic Church is. Right.
Really. I meant, again, maybe when we get into the possession and exorcism episode itself, I wanted to get into more of like, what are all denominations like equally capable? Right. Yeah. Was this something that the Catholics are like more equipped to do, or what the situation? I also meant to look up like the difference between Lutherans and like there's talk of like Jesuits and Roman Catholic. I don't know off the top of my head the difference between these denominations. Right. Again, like you said, they all believe in Jesus in some form or another, but I don't know. But yeah, he was like, dude, get some help.
Get some Catholics.
So they went to Father Edward Hughes, Roman Catholic priest, who initially apparently just gave them like holy water and candles and was like, see ya, which sucks. You're like, dude, kid's possessed, we think, and he's just like, handle it on your own.
Sounds like it sucks. Sounds like a personal problem.
Sounds like you need
here's some candles.
Here's some candles. But then again, like details being murky, it then says that he went to the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. for permission to perform an exorcism, which apparently a priest needs. You need permission from a bishop. This is not just a thing that a priest can do. You have to like get permission, and it's not very often that a bishop will grant permission because it has to seem like a pretty serious thing.
Oh yeah, exorcisms are a very like rare thing, especially nowadays, because it has to sort of be clear that it's not some underlying mental health issue. Like now that schizophrenia is like well known and well documented, it has to basically be documented like, nope, he doesn't, or the person in question like can't have an existing like psychological condition. Basically, there has to be no other explanation for this person's behavior other than demonic possession. Yeah. So it's like, it's a rare thing for this to have happened.
Which, so I wonder, like in the details, they're like, did Father Edward Hughes, like if he initially was just like, see you later, here's some shit, take care of your stuff yourself, then like what made him be like, oh shit, I got to get permission to do this. Right. I don't know if he maybe also observed him and so that detail was missed somehow. I don't know. But so that exorcism was performed at Georgetown University Hospital, a Jesuit institution. Yep. So during this exorcism, apparently Roland slipped one of his hands out of the restraints, broke a bed spring.
Right. Which is not an easy thing to do.
No, not like supposedly one-handed too. Yeah. We're assuming he just got one hand free and did this, ripped it out of the mattress and slashed the priest's arm from shoulder to wrist.
Jesus. Yeah. Shoulder to wrist.
Yeah, dude. Like, I know. I'm like, wow. Yeesh. Suppose one of the things I read said he needed 100 stitches. Wow. And so that halted the exorcism.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Understandably.
Wouldn't that, like, I if you're really trying to exorcise somebody, that's when you should like escalate the exorcism. You shouldn't just call it off there. That's like when you're like, all right, now we need to like really get this out of here.
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, I didn't really give much detail about this, but like, was he the only one there? Is that even a thing? That there'd just be one priest? Like, are there always assistants? I don't know.
Yeah.
So either way, they were messed up.
Some of these later exorcisms definitely had like 3 or 4 priests present.
Oh yeah.
Like backup almost.
At least, yeah. Just to, which, yeah, I wonder if that happened. Did that happen because it was getting really serious and they had to like continue?
Right.
Or is that the norm? I don't really know. So at this point, his mother's pretty exasperated.
Yeah.
One of the common themes between the real story and the movie. In the movie, as you'll see.
Yeah.
When you watch it, because you're going to.
I'm going to.
The mom of the girl in the movie, not the boy, is really upset at some point because she keeps trying to get help and like nobody wants to help.
It should be like frustrating and scary at the same time.
Super scary because there's like something really wrong here.
Oh yeah.
The movie was similar. She also got possessed by the use of a Ouija board as well. If I remember correctly, she was talking to somebody named Captain Howdy and ends up getting, it was creepy as hell.
That is.
Yeah.
Weird.
So yeah, she's getting upset. He starts getting like these scratches on his body.
This is a weird little detail.
Like words are appearing
in places where it would be difficult to have done yourself.
Yeah. So she's getting freaked.
Yeah.
And she starts thinking like maybe we should go to St. Louis because that's where she's got some family.
Well, one of the scratches that appeared on his skin was the word Louis.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Louis.
Yeah.
So they have
She's
like family in St. Louis.
Mm.
So she was like, oh, like that must be like. So, okay, if we are going with the assumption that Robbie is possessed.
Right. Yeah,
and there's a demon that is taking over his body, that would be that would be Robbie scratching the word Louis on his own skin through his, like through, I don't know, like I'm unclear where those scratches came from.
Is that Roland like trying to, like somehow getting through,
right, and
being like, take me there, like he knows he'll get help there, or is like, why would the demon be like, go there?
Let's go to St. Louis.
Yeah, just go for a trip. I'm just
the weird part about this too is that supposedly during all of this, Roland would be like super normal during the day and have like no memory of what was going on at night.
Yeah,
and it was only like at night that like his possession would take over or whatever.
Yeah,
which is a weird.
It's interesting.
Like,
I don't really
dichotomy.
know if that's common.
Right.
Yeah.
Which maybe speaks against it being a mental illness thing, because if it was mental illness or something, then it would be just constant.
Right.
They wouldn't be like, oh, totally normal during the day, and then like, bam, possessed.
Yeah. Right. Mental illness, and like if he was just wanting attention, like,
right,
why would that stop during the day?
Right.
Unless he just needed a break.
Right.
Like it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Pretending to be, right. It probably is. So they go, and they end up at a relative's house in St. Louis, and they're at his cousin's house. And so she contacts one of her professors at St. Louis University, who is Father Raymond J. Bishop.
Yep.
And he speaks to William S. Bodern, who is an associate of College Church.
Yep.
So then they're like on the case.
Yep.
Apparently Bodern didn't know much about exorcisms, and he like started studying. It was like, oh shit.
Studying up.
It said that he would have learned a little bit while becoming a Jesuit, but there isn't much call for exorcisms in modern day.
Yep.
But I guess he was a veteran of World War II, so he was kind of this priest with like this hard edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
That
I don't know why
nice.
I like that idea.
Right.
Like
a fighting priest.
Yeah, like badass veteran priest. Yeah. So yeah, they visit him at his relative's home, and this whole process ended up taking like over a month.
Yeah. There's like 20 to 30 exorcisms.
2 months. Yeah, like just over and over they're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, several priests. There were Alexian brothers. I didn't look that up either.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's just like, I think it's another like sort of like cult of Christianity. One little side note about like there's a lot of Jesuits in this story.
Yeah.
Which, for anybody who doesn't know, Justine and I both went to Chevers High School in Portland, Maine, which is a Jesuit high school.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know much about Jesuits until very recently. I heard it described as the Jesuits are to the Catholic Church as like special forces would be to like the army.
Whoa.
So like Jesuits are like the most highly educated, the most highly trained. They are sort of like sent in by the Pope when there's like a need for somebody who's both really intelligent and really like studied in theology.
Interesting.
So they're sort of like extra special, extra educated priests that like are like the special forces of the Catholic Church.
Dang.
So for all these Jesuits and Jesuit institutions to be involved in this case, it's just sort of like escalating it. Like, oh, you don't even need like a regular Roman Catholic priest. You need like a Jesuit.
Dang.
So that like shows like how crazy it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I looked up Jesuits a little bit in studying for this, and yeah, it mentioned them being like trained as missionaries. So like I think these are like, yeah, pretty hardcore.
Oh yeah. Very, very smart. And they're also very like scientifically minded. Like they're the ones who like, they aren't just saying like, oh, like, you know, the sun revolves around the earth and like, you know, God created the earth like 10,000 years ago. It's like they believe in like science, and they are like, some of them are like published scholars who have like actual scientific papers in their names, but they're also like really well educated on like the history of theology as well. Damn. So they're just like crazy educated like Catholics basically. So
that's kind of awesome.
It is kind of, so they're like them involved in this case is kind of like the most intense exorcists you could get.
Yeah, means that it was serious.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I really was kind of curious. I mean, it's weird that we went to a Jesuit high school and I didn't really know. I mean, I knew that it was, again, like a branch of Christianity in a sense, but I didn't really know what they were.
Right.
Yeah. I guess we didn't really learn about that in school.
Right. They just were too busy teaching us about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. God
like
is good.
Bible study.
Yeah.
I actually weirdly liked Bible study.
Really?
Just in the sense, I think the teacher that we had was really important, and I wish I could remember his name right now. Dang.
Oh, man.
You like, I'm pretty sure he was the only one. You know, you can like picture him.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just interesting because he was not a person just like Mr. Haskell.
Yeah.
That we had these two teachers at Cheverus that were very like no nonsense, not at all. Like, even Mr. Haskell was kind of your typical Catholic in the sense that he like had gotten married young and I think had like a whole bunch of kids.
Yeah, he had like 12 kids.
Yeah, 1 million kids. But he was a really cool guy and was not teaching us this stuff as just like, let's blindly follow this. It was like, let's analyze this.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
It was almost like philosophy.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was, the Bible study was more almost like like when you read like Shakespeare, there's a lot of it where you're like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
That isn't like a phrase nowadays. Like we don't call that by that word or whatever. So it was a lot of like, what did they mean when they said this?
Right.
And learning about how much like a lot of the Bible is symbolism and a lot of it is like not exaggeration, but you know, when they describe like being in the desert for 40 years or whatever, like obviously they weren't really in the desert for 40 years.
Right.
It was just like a long ass time.
Exactly.
That's how they said like
hyperbole.
Long ass time. Yeah, like they didn't say like, oh, we were there forever. Like they said we were there for 40 years.
Right.
And it had, you know, that number had symbolism. So that was like cool to learn about that. Yeah.
And so I think that's a good like encapsulation of what it is to be a Jesuit.
Yeah.
Where you don't just blindly read the Bible as like literal truth. You read deeper into it to figure out what larger sort of like ideas trying to be communicated by the authors of the Bible.
Yeah.
And how does that fit into like modern science, theology, sociology, all of that.
Which is super cool.
So
yeah. If I won't speak for Gray, but for me personally, I went to Catholic school and I'm not Catholic myself and don't know what I really believe, but I've always thought that the whole idea of religion in general, not just Catholicism, is fascinating. And like the Bible is fascinating. The story is fascinating.
Yep.
I do believe that there was a Jesus. Might not believe he was the son of God.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of stuff in there that's like interesting.
There's good stuff in there.
Yeah. So anyways,
that was a tangent.
That was a tangent. So yeah, there's all kinds of people, like you said, only took place in the evening. This was like, he'd wake up in the morning, like not having any idea what had happened.
Yeah, like almost no memory of what had happened the night before too.
Yeah. Which would suck.
Maybe he only had control over his body during the day and then the demon would take over at night.
Yeah.
Which is why he didn't remember.
Which is weird.
It is weird.
Yeah. I don't really know. So yeah, they kept going, even though things were getting worse.
Oh yeah. Tons of exorcisms.
Yeah. They're just over and over, which I guess I never really thought about that it's not one continuous thing. It's like they keep trying. Yeah. And then failing. They asked his family for permission to teach him about Catholicism and convert him as a way to like strengthen the fight against the demon. Yeah, he was not baptized. No. Which is part of why they thought that an exorcism was necessary. Interesting. Like what happens if you are baptized? Right. But that just like, so, okay, when you're exorcising somebody, they have an aversion to anything that's like holy or sacred. So like they can't like touch a cross, or they can't like, you know, they'll like whenever you like hold up anything that's like holy towards them. So maybe if you're baptized, that makes your vessel a holy object, and you would be less likely to be possessed. Yeah. The theory. Yeah. I don't know. Sounds right. I don't know. But it makes sense. They wanted to like convert him. Yeah. So he would be like this stronger vessel. Yeah. But then what if that backfires? And then he's like super strong and the demon's still in there, and now like the demon's never coming out. Like what if it's not just some low level demon? What if it's literally Satan himself? Right. That's what it said. It said that possessions can be by Satan himself or like one of his lesser demons. But like Satan sometimes is like, let's do this. He'll do it. I'm bored. Now I'm just wondering, like, can Satan possess... Oh, we're going to get into this.
Yeah.
We're going to get into this. I need to stop theorizing on possession.
Right.
But my question was, can Satan possess more than one person at a time? Stay tuned. We'll find out in the possession episode. So as he got closer to conversion and making his first Holy Communion, he got more violent, which makes sense.
Right.
The demon, regardless of Satan or lesser, is getting pissed.
Yeah.
They do not like... Keep in mind, you know this, demons and Satan himself are fallen angels.
Oh, yeah.
These people are pissed at God.
Yes.
People, demons, whatever,
Yeah.
spirits. They're pissed.
Yeah.
So you get, the religious icons and objects and the communion, they're not happy with that.
No.
So things are getting bad.
They have a violent aversion to it.
Yeah. The family apparently believed that Aunt Harriet was at least partly responsible for the possession. Supposedly at one point they asked the spirit to knock 3 times if it was Aunt Harriet, and they heard 3 knocks.
Ooh.
And then they were like, how about 4 knocks? And heard 4 knocks.
Ooh, nope.
Yeah, I know.
Fuck
Gave me
that.
chills. So why would Aunt Harriet possess her nephew? I don't know.
Right.
Is she mixed up? I mean, she was a spiritualist. Was this the family being I mean, again, this was the late 40s.
Oh, yeah.
This was not something that, I mean, again, still today, was not something that is widely accepted.
Right.
Did they think that maybe I don't know why they would let her spend so much time with him if they thought that she was like evil or dangerous, but maybe they had some suspicions.
Yeah. And
knows?
it's interesting. Like, what if she came off as this like harmless spiritualist trying to talk to the other side or whatever, but really she was like a necromancer or like a Satanist who was like communicating with like Satan himself and like practicing like black magic. So when Aunt Harriet died, she became a lesser demon. Yeah. Possessed that boy because she had an opening.
Scary.
Yeah, that's freaky.
Yeah.
Would make a lot of sense too.
Oh yeah. I was like, have you seen the movie Hereditary?
No.
Oh my God, dude. What the hell? All right. You also need to see that. Jesus Christ. Like, again, I would put that movie on as soon as we're done recording. Okay. It's so fucking good.
Hereditary and The Exorcist.
Yes. Hereditary is new. Exorcist is 70s.
Right.
You're gonna love them both. Anyways. So yeah, they started the exorcism at home. Yep. They ended up moving to a wing of the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis. Yep. Which was destroyed in the late 70s. I was really hoping that was connected. I don't think it was. No. It even used the word raised in one of the things, like R-A-Z-E-D. I love that word. Raised to the ground. But it was so far after, like, if this happened in the late 40s and they raised it in 78, I don't think that was, like, because...
It was probably just, like, an abandoned hospital.
Or they were, redoing it or something. Mm-hmm. But, I was hoping for that connection. No. Right. Anyways, so another priest, Walter Halloran, was called in at some point. Again, like, is this like, we need backup? Yeah, right? Shit's getting bad.
We need a bunch of theologians here.
Yeah. He was asked to assist. And then there was another third Jesuit priest, William Van Roo. Was called in. Halloran stated that during at some point, words such as evil and hell, along with other various marks, would appear on his body. Yeah. More of these weird scratches. Allegedly, during the Litany of the Saints portion of the exorcism ritual, the boy's mattress began to shake, and Roland even broke Halloran's nose during the process. Yeah. Dude. Shit.
I'd be pissed. You're just like trying to be like a priest, just do your thing, and then all of a sudden this kid like breaks your nose and is like stabbing people with mattress springs.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I'm just trying to like be a priest.
Yeah. The whole like the idea, and again, I really think it's one of those things where like when I hear stories about exorcisms, I can like picture an exorcism, and it's totally because of the movie. Oh yeah. Because there's a scene in the movie, I mean, it's a long drawn out thing, right, where they're doing this exorcism, and it's just like these 2 priests are in the room and just screaming like the power of Christ compels you, just over and over. Yeah. It's insane. And there's some crazy shit that happens. And it just seems like such a, like, for a priest who believes that this demon has possessed this person, like all they're doing is like you just said, like they're just trying to help to be in this. It just seems really emotionally charged. Oh yeah. That they're just like in there just freaking out.
For
like
everybody.
They're facing like their worst enemy of sorts. Like,
right. Like for all they know, they could be facing Satan himself.
Yeah.
Or themselves.
Right. Yeah. I don't think Satan has a gender. I don't know.
Lucifer.
Right?
Interesting.
Could be Lucy.
Lucy? Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Another shout out to a show called Enchantment. Damn it, now I can't remember. It's a cartoon, more like pretty recent cartoon. And there's a little demon in the show, and they call him Lucy, like Luci. Yeah, it's really cute.
That's cute.
He's like my favorite character. Anyways, lots of little segues in this episode. So, and then apparently it worked.
Yeah.
The exorcism worked.
It was evidently after they invoked the name of Saint Michael.
Oh yeah.
The archangel.
Mm-hmm.
And Roland had a vision of Saint Michael vanquishing Satan on a field of battle.
Whoa.
And that's what cast him out, which is pretty intense.
That's awesome.
So in that situation, then, does that mean that it was Satan himself who had to be cast out?
Right.
And did like Saint Michael, the archangel himself, had to kick Satan out? Like, that's pretty intense. That's not just like low level demon shit. That's like, like Bible.
Yeah.
Like major players in the Bible.
Dang. It's kind of cool.
It's pretty intense, which would make sense why they had like 30 exorcisms first before they could finally cast him out.
Yeah. Right. And they're just, I mean, you have to, I don't know how all this stuff works.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to me that it worked one day.
Right.
And then he was fine, apparently. Like, literally, Bishop's diary, the day after Easter Sunday, said since Monday at 11 p.m., there have been no indications of the presence of the devil. And that was just it. Apparently, Roland went on to, like, get married, had a job, had kids.
Never spoke about this publicly.
No, never spoke publicly. And, like, apparently the Jesuits and the Alexians, like, kept track of him. And, like, nothing ever seemed to come up again.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, none of the exorcisms eyewitnesses ever publicly revealed the details out of respect for his privacy. Because, we don't know what his real name was. Maybe. Supposedly, I mean, one of the things that I read said that he's still alive today, which would make sense.
He'd be like in his 80s.
Yeah, late 40s. He'd still be alive. He was only 13. But, yeah. And like kind of a good end of the story, but kind of like a disappointingly like anticlimactic, like just all this crazy shit's happening and then just
all of a sudden, Yeah. Like flipping a switch.
Yeah. So there's an author, Thomas B. Allen, wrote a book about this in 1993 called Possessed. Wow. So a lot of the information that I got came from the website of St. Louis University.
Yeah.
There was a library archivist for 40 years, John Wade, who wrote up a lot of his info, and he said that book by Thomas B. Allen is the one to put the most stock in. Apparently it's based on two primary sources, the actual diary kept by Raymond J. Bishop, and interviews with Walter Halloran, who was the dude who got his nose broken.
Right.
So supposedly, and like apparently Thomas B. Allen like kind of writes the book. He's not at all trying to like prove whether or not he was possessed. He's just kind of detailing what he actually knows. He spoke a lot to Halloran, who was there, and it seemed like Thomas B. Allen actually doubted a lot of it, that it was actually even a real possession. Right. Which is interesting. And there's some movies. There's a movie from 2000 called Possessed, inspired by the case. And there's a documentary called In the Group of Evil. Wow. And another called The Haunted Boy, The Secret Diary of the Exorcist.
Whoa. So this is just like a very big thing in pop culture.
Yeah. Yeah. This like possession and this case in particular.
Yeah.
Supposedly that second one, a group of investigators actually travel to the location and uncover the diary. Whoa. But this one that was said it was kept by William S. Boner, which is why I'm confused. Yeah. It seemed like there was only one diary, but then supposedly they uncovered a different one.
Yeah, this whole story is just...
The whole thing is real unclear.
Yeah, it's hard to like pin down true facts and what's just... It's just like a legend, basically. With a lot of like some anchoring details and some anchoring facts, but most of it is just kind of like all just thrown together, you know?
Right. Well, and... yeah, Halloran himself was interviewed and asked like if the boy was really possessed. And supposedly he said that he couldn't go on record saying that he never made an absolute statement, didn't feel he was qualified. And I really think, I mean, it's unclear at this point whether like, are they keeping it quiet because it was real? Right. They want to respect his privacy. You'd think that they could equally be respecting his privacy if it was deemed at some point that he was mentally ill. That he was just doing it for attention. They still wouldn't want those details out. Yeah. So I always wonder if like with the exorcism thing, like, you know, there's certain doctors who will like only take on cases they think will be successful if it's like an elective surgery or something. Like they want to keep their numbers up. Like I wonder if the priests and like the bishops do the same thing. They're like, doesn't seem legit. It's going to look bad. Exactly. If we like go into this exorcism and it's like not real.
I bet so. I bet that's why it doesn't. Well, there's also situations where like people have died while they were being like supposedly exorcised. Yeah. Like held down and deprived of water for days until they literally like die of dehydration.
To try to cast the demon out.
Right. So I think it's like it's a dangerous proposition. And it's sort of like, if you don't have tight controls over it, then it could go very wrong.
Yeah.
Especially because nowadays it's, not even nowadays, all throughout history, it's like 99% of them are probably just mental illness.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not going to cast that demon out because you can't just like, throw holy water on somebody and cure their schizophrenia.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. They would want to keep it to success stories, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of skeptics,
Mm-hmm.
naturally. People think that he was just mentally ill.
Yep.
People think that he was just like a spoiled kid, that he was kind of a troublemaker and just wanted attention. Some people believed that maybe some of the details were exaggerated, that he scratched those words on his own body. And I mean, that you really don't need to know that much about possessions to fake it.
No.
I mean, I could fake being possessed.
Oh, yeah.
I know enough about what is supposedly happens.
Mm-hmm.
And, it said like, one of the guys said that like, oh, I bet, the Latin that he was speaking was just like common words that he could have picked up at like church or whatever.
Yeah, if he grew up in a Lutheran family, it's very possible that he was exposed to religion a lot.
Yeah.
And could have had exposure to Latin, in church or at home in some capacity. And so it could just be picked up from there.
Yeah. And that's why the details being so shady is hard with the story, because it's like, who knows what he said in Latin? Did he recite like an entire thing? I mean, maybe he knew that off the top of his head anyways.
Right.
Maybe he actually was possessed and he was, that's a thing.
Yeah.
So who knows? But yeah, like we said, everything is kind of based on hearsay.
Yeah.
So
how do you feel about it? Do you think he was possessed?
I don't know enough about this particular case to say. I do think that possessions happen for sure. I don't, like you said, I don't think that every supposed possession is real.
Yeah.
But I definitely think, I don't know, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That, like we said, that you would become open and vulnerable and that a demon might want to take advantage.
Right.
I don't totally know what the purpose is of being, like, what's the demon's purpose?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just doesn't seem like they're, like, it would make more sense if the demon possessed somebody and they still remained themselves.
Yeah.
And remained like calm. If the idea was for them to like do evil.
Right. Like if they would like become possessed and then like commit a mass shooting or break in somewhere and do something. That would
like a whole weird theory.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man. It's like almost on par with the like, oh, he was mentally ill.
Yeah.
Like, but just brush it off. But
yeah. Interesting. If you go into theology and you look at like the sort of like motivations of the devil doesn't want to like have to take over your body and then like commit an act of violence through your body. The devil wants to convince you that it's a good idea to do that. And you make the decision to commit violence.
Yeah.
Like Satan didn't possess Eve to pick the apple from the tree of knowledge. Satan convinced Eve to take the apple from the tree of knowledge. So I think it would be more Satan style or more a demonic style to influence and to convince rather than to just possess and like use somebody as an instrument.
Right.
So it's like, if that's not what's happening, then what's the point of possession? Is it?
Right. Well, yeah. And if somebody's getting possessed and they're just freaking out.
Yeah. Being like super obvious about it. No chill.
No chill at all.
Yeah.
And like all these priests are here all of a sudden.
Yeah. And you're getting cast out.
Yeah. Then that sucks.
Can they just not help themselves?
Right. Can they not help themselves? Like, is there some type of interaction between... I don't know. Is it possible that there are people who are possessed? Maybe. Okay. This is a theory.
Okay.
Here's a thought.
Let's hear it.
So somebody who is fundamentally good.
Yes.
Not necessarily religious or baptized or any of that stuff, but just good.
Right.
Maybe when they're possessed, it's like some type of chemical interaction. Like when you mix two things and it like explodes or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Like the demon comes in there and your self, like, let's say you have a soul. Mm-hmm. Don't know if we believe in souls, but let's just throw it out there. Let's speak for myself too.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
But let's just say you have a soul that is like fundamentally good and the demon comes in there and they're like clashing.
Yeah.
That makes you freak out. Those are the more obvious,
right,
possessions. But maybe if somebody already has this kind of evil soul and the demon comes in, maybe it just blends together.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes somebody a little bit more evil, or that makes them actually do some things they've been thinking about. But like, what if that could be a partial explanation for some fucked up things that people do?
Interesting.
That they became possessed and they just were already primed for it.
Right.
And they were just like, all right, cool.
A little bit of nature and nurture.
Yeah. Interesting. Not to say I'm like explaining, it's serial killers or mass shooters with that, but
it's a reason, not an excuse.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. So what do you think?
I think this particular situation was, like you said, a combination of some, maybe like that whole anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis, where he had some sort of mental condition that caused him to have seizures, and it's like causes like memory loss and impaired cognition, strange speech, fingers that would look like they were playing the piano, feet like pedaling of the feet, all these very strange, very specific, very specific symptoms of this disease that would look purposeful, or that would be like repetitive, and so it would look as if it's something that is, like happening on purpose. And then with the impaired cognition and the like inability to speak, or like speak in tongues or gibberish, I think those combinations would be, it's literally like the laundry list of what happens when you're possessed. So some condition like that encephalitis, combined with people exaggerating what they saw, or sort of like maybe like the scratching in the walls really was mice in the walls. It was just a coincidence. So you combine all those elements together, and you sort of create this sensationalized story that's bigger than the events themselves. I mean, the fact that there's so many sort of like parts to this story that are wildly different depending on where you talk to the people, including like down to like their names. Like their names could there's like 3 different names that could be for each of these characters. So I think like it just became a story that was larger than the story itself. I think it speaks more to like our desire as humans to have a story of exorcism or of possession. Clearly, like we were saying, like exorcism and possession is a thing in almost all cultures. So it's clearly something that like we as humans find to be interesting and scary. So this was just sort of satisfying our more modern need for a, an anchor point in our head for exorcism and possession. So I don't think it was necessarily, like in this particular instance, was demonic possession. I think it was a misdiagnosed medical condition.
Interesting.
But I don't discount possession in general, because I do think that there are probably situations where, like say 99.99% of exorcisms are explainable by mental illness, but then that 0.01% is unexplainable. And that's where I think the interesting, like, oh, like maybe there was, if you believe in the idea of souls, or like a collective consciousness, the idea of someone like sort of like losing control over their faculties. Like, I could believe in demonic possession in general. In this specific case, I don't think so. Me personally.
It is interesting. Like if it was a medical condition, what do you think made it resolve in that case? I mean, again, I don't know if that particular encephalitis, is that something that could spontaneously like go away on its own, or is that something that you need to be treated for, otherwise you're going to die? I don't know. I
mean, I know encephalitis is just swelling of the brain, so it is possible that it just sort of like went down after a while, and I doubt it was a like a switch going off, like all of a sudden he was okay, but maybe over the course of 2 months, 20 to 30 exorcisms, the swelling went down and he became normal. It could have just gone away on its own. We were saying before we started recording, like I'm sure some people, just die of these situations, and those are the people who like, weren't successfully exorcised because like the demon killed them or whatever. So I think like some people just spontaneously get better. Some people, there could have been an environmental factor that was causing it, that like moving him to St. Louis removed that environmental factor, and then slowly got better after that. It's interesting.
It is interesting.
Maybe, I mean, since these exorcisms took place in like medical wards, or like medical, like places where there's medical professionals, it's possible he could have gotten some sort of like treatment just for like the symptoms of the exorcism, like, like an IV drip or some sort of medication for like the swelling. Who knows? Like you could have gotten some sort of medical treatment that caused, or that cleared up the condition, and it seemed like it was the exorcism itself, but really it was a medical treatment.
That could make sense. I mean, what if they gave him like, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm amazed at how often I have to say this on the podcast. I know I'm surprising everybody, but Yeah, like what if he just, because he was freaking out, wouldn't eat or drink. Maybe they put him on an IV for fluids because they're like, well, we're here, we might as well. And he's not taking in anything. And maybe that helped somehow.
Some kind of like sedative to like calm him down.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah. Dang. That makes a lot of sense.
So.
Damn. Yeah.
That's where I come down on it.
Yeah. It makes sense.
This particular situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just so hard. I would love, it's like all the priests that were involved have died at this point. The most recent one died in like 2005.
Yeah.
Which again makes sense. They were probably all at least in their 40s, if not like 50s when they were doing that. And it was a long time ago. But would love to like have talked to one of the priests that was there just to see how they still felt about it. And yeah, it's such a tricky line to land on because it's just like they didn't want to talk about it because they didn't want to reveal all these details about this very private matter.
Right.
That would have been like, again, if it was a mental illness, if it was a medical issue, or if he really was possessed, that would have been like, to them especially, that would have been a very like, let's not let the world know about this type of thing. So there's just no, I mean, it's a cool story to me in the sense that like, if it is true, there's only a handful of people who knew it. Right. And they're almost all dead. Except for maybe Roland.
Maybe Roland is still out there somewhere.
That'd be cool.
It's crazy. Well, maybe not from this specific situation, but I know that there's still like an exorcist kept on staff at the Vatican. So there's somebody whose job it is to be an exorcist out there in this world. That's crazy. And I wonder what that dude knows. Yeah. What has he seen? We'll have to do an episode sometime on the Vatican archives. Oh yeah. Because that's a whole thing that conspiracy theorists love. It's this off limits, like archive of papers and books dating back to the beginning of Christianity. So like almost all of written Western history. And I'm curious what their archives say about exorcism. Yeah. It's actually on our list. There could be a whole, topics. Yeah. There could be a whole file somewhere on Roland. Oh, dang. Oh, and there would be too. There would be. Like there is no matter what, because again, if we're saying that there's relatively few actual exorcisms performed, because they need permission from a bishop. And this is like a big, and this is not just something that you're just like, yo, can we do this? And he's like, sure. Like they need to review these details. I'm sure the bishop had to get permission from the Vatican probably. Oh yeah. So probably every exorcist that has taken place, exorcism, dang it. It's weird. The movie being The Exorcist, like for some reason I think of that. There's part of my brain that thinks of like The Exorcist as like the act itself, the event, but that's like the person who does it. Right. And the exorcism. Yeah. Anyways, there's probably notes on all of them. Oh yeah. Just sitting in, which is crazy. Sitting in an archive somewhere. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So, Roland Doe. Exorcism of Roland Doe. Yep. Halloween episode. Yeah. Our second Halloween episode. Oh yeah. Dang. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. If you remember last year, we did Stull Cemetery. Yep. And you did that other place. Bobby Mackey's. Bobby Mackey's. Yep. Yeah. That's what it was. Yep. Pretty cool. Yeah. I was actually going to relate this back to that episode by saying that just like the Stull Cemetery story being essentially something that started from like a random article that then just got passed along at like, people playing telephone. Yeah. It gets changed and details added and details forgotten. This is kind of like that in a sense where there's like only so many details known. And a lot of it is like, supposedly we heard from this person. Supposedly the mom said this, the priest said this, the diary said this. It gets twisted. And then everybody's writing articles about it. There's in newspapers, and now there's like all these articles modern referencing old articles. Yeah. And nothing is totally accurate. And again, nothing ever will be totally accurate. People could say they read the diary. Who knows? Maybe they did. The priest could have lied. They could have exaggerated. Their beliefs could have clouded their judgment. Who knows? Right. So it's kind of similar in that way where it's like this awesome story that we have no, and that's why it's unknowable. Yeah. Unknowable. We tied it all back. Oh yeah. Yeah. All good. Right. So that's episode 30. Dang. On Halloween. Well, actually, no, it's episode 30 released on October 30th. What? Yes. The hot day before Halloween. Yeah. We did not plan that. Dang. Everybody have a good Halloween. Yep. Stay safe. Yeah. Do some spooky shit, but safely. Get spooky. Yeah. Don't get haunted or possessed or. Yeah. Don't open yourself up. If you're going to play with a Ouija board, use protection. Yeah. Haley and Joel, I'm talking to you. Yeah. Draw that pentagram on the floor first. Yeah. Make sure you don't. Oh, yeah. You're not supposed to like take your hands off the. What's it called? Oh, the planchette. Planchette, yeah. Planchette. I don't know. I think it's planchette. Yeah. Don't take your hands off it. Yeah. It's bad. And don't do it when you're in an emotionally compromised state. Yeah. Like I was. Open yourself up. Yeah, you're lucky. Yeah. I could be carrying around a demon. I mean. But if it's a demon, he knows Dad's middle name, so. Yeah. It's fine. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Right? Like, do demons can they just know that? Can they go into my mind and find that? Do they, like,
demons
know him?
omniscient?
Oh, shit.
Maybe it was Satan himself.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm convinced, though. It was somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It was not them, because you can say all you want. Oh, people can just move the planchette and, like, make it say whatever you want. But, like, they did not know those details.
No.
There's no way they could have gotten that.
Yeah.
Okay. Halloween episode.
This has been Unknowable.
Unknowable. Love you.